I want to touch up on something that Mr. Frost said. He kept asking, "Where's your bill? Where's your bill?" And there are two schools of thought up here as we try to address the crime crisis in Washington, D.C. and try to come to solutions. And I feel like one thing that my colleagues on the other side of the aisle constantly say, you have to have a bill to do this. They said you had to have a bill to secure the border. Well, President Trump secured the border within days of assuming the presidency. It wasn't the lack of a bill, and their bill, by the way, had a lot of amnesty in there, which made it a toxic bill, and that was a poison pill, as we say often about bills. So there's also a school of thought that to alleviate poverty or to control poverty, you have to have a bill, you have to have government programs, you have to hire a bunch of government bureaucrats, you have to have government funding, and it has to increase by 10% every year, for every year, year after year, year after year, year after year. Many of us, myself included, believe that the best way to end poverty is to try to help grant access to a good paying job, And we don't think you get good paying jobs through government bureaucracies, through government agencies, through never-ending creation of new government programs. And with respect to alleviating crime in Washington, D.C., we had, as we all know, an aggressive markup last week. And, the bills addressed, many of them, juvenile crime. So, General Schwab, do you agree or disagree that there's a juvenile crime problem in Washington, D.C.?
I think we need to make sure that when kids commit crimes, particularly violent crime.
But is there? I mean, it seems like looking out the window at night from Barry, there were a lot of kids running around. A lot of the carjackings were committed by juveniles. An excessively high juvenile crime rate, if you define juvenile as, the way your definition under 24 is.
Well, here in the district, Mr. Chairman, juveniles defined as younger than 18. My office is addressing every violent juvenile crime that we have.
There's no juvenile crime crisis in Washington. Is that what you want to say?
One crime from a young person
Okay,
is
you
one
said
too many.
Chairman Mendelson, is there a juvenile crime problem in Washington, D.C.?
Well, the challenge, Mr. Chairman, is that what does problem mean? So if I were to say yes,
that's good.
No, there's too much.
If you can't say there's a juvenile crime problem in Washington, D.C., that's why we have to come in and help out a little bit.
Mayor Bowser, as a former mayor, I know how hard, of course, you are working to keep people safe. You have said that mass ICE agents on the streets of D.C. are not helping, which I appreciate, and all of us appreciate. And of course, today we could be talking about more community policing. We could be talking about illegal guns. We could be talking about real partnerships and fully funding Washington, D.C. But we can't do that, of course, because the majority continues to ignore the crimes and corruption at 1600 Pennsylvania and the corruption of this administration. Now, we can't pull out a full map of Washington, D.C., but there are other corruption hotspots across the district. Now, let's look right next door to the White House. Here is the headquarters of the Office of Management and Budget. Just next door, OMB ordered the unlawful freezing of more than $425 billion in congressionally authorized funds. This ovulates the law. It's corruption. It's a crime. This has hurt communities in D.C. and across the country. They're blocking funds for energy, education, law enforcement, and much more. Now let's go down the map a few miles south. Here is the Department of Homeland Security, where Secretary Noam has ordered unlawful deportations and unleashed masked federal agents to harm innocent people across the country. And we have no idea, by the way, of who's following that and who's not. Who's following what rule, who is not. What we do know is that the legal rights of people and due process is being ignored. If we go up the map back to the north on Maryland Avenue, we have the Department of Education, also in D.C., more crimes and corruption. Here, the Trump administration illegally froze billions of dollars of K-12 and adult education funding. They even froze funding for mental health. and they're trying to illegally dissolve the agency in violation of the law. Again, more crimes and corruption in Washington, D.C. This would devastate children across the country, especially those with disabilities. Now, if we go back downtown, here's the Department of Commerce, where Trump and the Secretary are breaking the law by illegally imposing tariffs without congressional approval. And all is being done in violation of the law, according to the U.S. Court of Appeals. And finally, if we go across the river, another part of D.C., to the Pentagon, Secretary Hegseth is politicizing the military. He leaked classified information, putting Americans in uniform at risk, and he's illegally seized control of the National Guard and ordered soldiers to illegally engage in law enforcement activities. And so we can map D.C., we can map where crimes is happening, we can map where corruption is happening. This, of course, is all we know, just the tip of the iceberg.
Mayor Bowser, I'm going to ask you a simple question based on the question you were just asked. Do you commit to use all that money to hire law enforcement people?
We commit to using it for law where it was cut primarily. We have
I just need to know yes or no. Will you, because you're making a big deal about wanting that money for law enforcement. Would you use it for law enforcement? Yes or no?
Well, Congressman, we want the money because it was approved by this Congress and it's our money.
Thank you.
We want it for law enforcement.
I take that as a no.
We want it for fire and EMS.
Mayor Bowser,
we want
it to change the way I'm asking you questions. Mayor Bowser, it's my time. It's my time.
There'll be order in here. Let Dr. Fox has the time. Let Dr. Fox proceed, Dr. Fox.
Mayor Bowser, do you agree that a key part of reducing juvenile crime is by improving education outcomes for students in Washington, D.C.?
Yes.
Good. So you believe that education is important for reducing juvenile crime. Do you also agree that the D.C. Opportunity Scholarship Program, or D.C. OSP, which expands educational opportunities for low-income families, plays a part of helping us reach that goal?
We have a system of choice here that includes opportunity scholarships, public charter schools, and traditional public schools.
Yes, ma'am.
All three.
I'm quite familiar with that.
Yep.
So we know students in the D.C. OSP can receive a high-quality education while they may be otherwise left behind in the horribly underperforming schools in D.C. This program provides real school choices for families, been repeatedly studied and evaluated. The results show that participants in the program thrive and see higher rates of high school graduation and the pursuit of higher education. Mayor Bowser, given the recent spike in juvenile crime in the city, I hope we can agree it's more important now than ever that school children have pathways to succeed and learn in safe, high-performing schools. What is your administration doing to ensure students have access to alternative education programs, including the D.C. OSP, to keep them engaged and on track?
Well, we have been very supportive of the SOAR Act, and we encourage this Congress to continue to support SOAR, where we invest in all sectors, including the Opportunity Scholarship Fund. We're also very proud that when we look back over 15 years in our investments in school reform with mayoral control of the schools and council oversight of the schools, we've seen enrollment in our schools nearly reach 100,000. We've seen achievement outpace our peer schools across the nation, and our children have rebounded from COVID learning loss faster than most.
Thank you.
And our residents are responding.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, I just was going to add that our residents are responding by sending their children to their neighborhood schools.
Thank
and that is a marker of success.
Thank you. Chairman Mendelson, given that better educational opportunities are strongly correlated with reductions in juvenile crime, what immediate steps is the City Council taking to ensure that D.C. youth have the best educational opportunities and are not left behind in failing schools?
Well, Congresswoman, thank you for that question. The council has actually taken a number of steps to ensure that funding is not cut to our local schools, that the individual schools in DCPS and in the charter schools are fully funded. We have been very aggressive about assuring that. But I want to note that the legislation that was passed would have the effect of cutting DCPS by $17.5 million a year. That is hurting kids, hurting 50,000 kids in our DCPS system because they will get $17.5 million less, and that is substantial.
Thank you. A.G. Schwab, what evidence does your office have that designated juvenile curfew zones have successfully reduced incidents of teenagers roaming or causing disturbances in residential neighborhoods, and how are those results measured?
We have seen, and I support the chief's use of curfew with respect to juveniles. The way the curfew has been used here in the district is a tool for the MPD to ask young people to disperse if there are large groups of them. That has been largely successful. If youth have not dispersed in response to the MPD request, MPD will occasionally pick those youth up and bring them to what's called our Youth Services Center, where their parents are called and they're brought home. We have not seen an increase in prosecution related to curfew, but we know anecdotally that the curfew, at least as a short-term measure, has been effective in dispersing large crowds of young people.
Thank you. I yield back, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask for unanimous consent.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to ask for unanimous consent to enter into the record a article from Vox News entitled "Laboratories of Democracy: Washington, D.C. showed how to do universal pre-K right. D.C. offers free pre-K for toddlers. The ripple effects have helped K through 12 schools." This is the first city in the United States to have universal pre-K in the country.
Chair recognizes
they
Mr.
are
Christomorte.
innovating and leading the
Ms.
way.
Stansbury, no tryouts for MSNBC. Chair recognizes, and before I recognize Mr. Christomorte, if I may, that $1 billion is restored in the continuing resolution that we're going to vote on tomorrow.
It hasn't been taken up. The Senate took it up a long time ago, and this House has
I've been a
refused to take that
proponent
up.
for that. And
so let's not
I've
talk about what we're going to do. Let's talk about what we've done.
Thank you, gentlemen. Chair recognizes Ms. Crockett from Texas.
Okay, I'm gonna try to go really fast because I got a lot to cover. So I'm starting with the AG. I want you to tell me whether or not it's lawful or lawless ignoring court orders,
That's lawless.
impounding congressional funds,
Violates the law.
invoking emergency powers when there is no emergency,
Unlawful.
sending troops without an invite,
Violates the law.
covering for pedophiles. I just threw that one in there. Okay, I'll move to the next one. What about revoking birthright citizenship?
Violates the 14th Amendment of the Constitution.
How about violating due process?
Violates the 5th and 14th Amendment of the Constitution.
How about what we see happening with redistricting that would in some way minimize, if not delete, the voices of people of color as they are going through and illegally going through this process? Is there a constitutional amendment that you can think of that is associated with that?
Probably many, but it is unlawful and unconstitutional and un-American.
Thank you. As well as, can you tell me if it is lawful or lawless to violate free speech?
That's lawless.
Okay, sounds about right, because, we had to have a conversation about Jimmy Kimmel, so I'm going to say free Jimmy Kimmel for sure, and hopefully we will deal with the FCC chairman. But the reason that I wanted to go through that long list, and that was actually not even the half of it, is because since this administration has come in on January 20th, they have engaged in some form of every single thing that I said on that list, even the part about covering for pedophiles. So my question is, why are we sitting here today? Number one, they already passed their bootleg laws, and it's clear that even the bill author is not well informed about what his bill does. Because as has already been stated, at the age of 18, you are an adult. So this idea that somehow 21-year-olds were now somehow juveniles under DC law, is that accurate or inaccurate?
It was inaccurate, misunderstood the way the law works.
Correct. could not understand how to read the law and decided that they were going to rewrite the law and mess up the law. And to be clear, we were talking about judges being able to have enough discretion to decide whether or not they were going to give someone an opportunity maybe to clean their record, such as the bill author was given that opportunity under Florida law because his second felony was picked up when he was 21, to be clear. So he was older than 18. And under this law, if you were under, 25, so 24 or under, then the judges had discretion, correct?
But only in certain kinds of cases, not the most serious cases. And in fact, that discretion was, as we know, exercised very rarely. And it would have been an opportunity had the Congress wanted to talk with the folks who are involved in applying that law and seeing how it works to understand that this is not a law that's out of sync with other states and it's working.
Thank you so much. And the reason that it matters is because now the gentleman from Florida is trying to become a governor, and chances are maybe DC, once they get statehood, could have had a future governor that had a second chance. But since they don't want other people to have chances that they've been given, they want to just pretend like they are bigger and better and badder than. So I will move on because I am frustrated that we are having this hearing when we know that this administration can't take care of their own business.
Republicans claim to be very worried about crime, but a quick look into their own party shows just how much they're willing to cover up and forgive in pursuit of power. Trump is using the National Guard and ICE not to protect people, but to scare them and to control them. He positions himself as the only answer to problems that he's actively making worse. If Republicans were really serious about crime, they'd hold their own leaders accountable, instead of turning a blind eye whenever it's politically convenient.